Hey, thanks for stopping by. Hey, I got another one for you. Now, this one I call Bedpan Mafia. When I was 4 years old, I got real sick. I came down what my mother thought was a bad cold, and then eventually ballooned into full blown pneumonia. I was one of those kids that loved to go outside, and I didn't care what the weather was. I'd run out there without a coat, and I would go out there and I would play in the rain, and eventually it caught up with me. I got sick. So my mother, thinking that was just a cold, a real bad cold, she tried to treat it. It didn't work. It kept getting worse and worse. So then finally my dad said, he's got to go to the doctor. So he took me to the doctor. By now I'm just barely can breathe. And they're like, yeah, we have to admit him, he has pneumonia. And during the doctor's check, they discovered that I had a heart murmur and I had rheumatic fever. And I got sicker faster. Like real fast. So they admitted me in the hospital, and I was there around about 4 months in the hospital. Now they ain't gonna keep you that long nowadays. Back then, you were sick, you were sick. And I was lying up there in the hospital, and I hated being in there because I couldn't get up. They told me that I can't get out of bed. They put me in some kind of oxygen tank. They set me up in there, and they said, "This is where you got to stay. You can't get out of this bed." But no matter how many times they told me not to get out of bed, I kept trying to get out of bed because I wanted to run around with the other kids. I wanted to play with the other kids. But I had to stay in bed. Finally, one day, I just zipped that little oxygen thing down, and I threw my legs over the bed, side of the bed, and I tried to stand up, and bam, flat on my back. Nurses ran in, get him up, get him up. They got me up, put me back in the bed, and she said, "You cannot get out of bed. You can't walk right now." And I hated being in that bed. All the other kids be playing around, having fun, and here I am laying in the bed. And then one day, when I was really paying attention to what was going on in our room, the boy across from me, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe his name was Reggie. I'm talking about bad, bad kid. This kid was so bad. Every nurse, every doctor, everyone that came in there, other visitors, he would call them names. He would say, "Hey, what are you doing in here, bitch? Get the fuck out of here, whore." Even my mother, "Ooh, that kid got a mouth on him." And the nurses would say, "Stop talking to people like that. Shut up, bitch." Obviously, he heard his parents do it. Somewhere he got this. He was about 4 or 5 years old too. Janitor would come in. He was relentless on the janitor. The janitor would come in and he was like, "Get the fuck out of here, you motherfucker." And the janitor said, "Hey, young man, you can't talk to me like that. Shut the fuck up." I'm like, whoa. And I couldn't get out of bed. I wanted to go over there and put my foot in his ass, but I couldn't. I couldn't even get up. So he came over to my bed one morning, and he like, "Get out of that bed." I looked at him. I said, "I can't." He said, "You can't walk? You a cripple?" I said, "No, I can't walk, man." He said, "Get up. Get your ass up." The nurses came in like, "No, no, Reggie, leave him alone. He can't get up. He's a cripple. He's a cripple." "I'm gonna cripple you, little. As soon as I get a chance, I'm gonna get up. We're gonna see who's crippled." And man, daily, he would talk about everyone. The old janitor, you looked like he didn't want to come in our room to mop. But he did, of course, and Reggie would call him all kind of names. And I learned to hate this boy. Day after day, week after week, there was Reggie, calling people out their name, calling them motherfuckers and son of a bitches. And I told myself, when I get a chance to get up, I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to do something to let that kid know this ain't cool. And day after day, I kept trying to get my strength up, and I would try to get out of bed after they took I don't know, they weren't supposed to do this, but they literally tied me to the rails of the bed so I wouldn't get out. But once they untied me days later, and I started getting strength in my legs, and I figured I could stand up, I started standing up, and I started getting my sea legs again. I got my legs back, and I'm like, yeah. Now I can move around a little bit. I would walk around the room real slow. The nurses would help me walk around. And there was Reggie, still calling me crippled, calling the nurses all kind of names. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, you're going to get yours. So one night, I told the guys, I said, hey, look, we're going to pee in the bedpan. We're going to pee in the bedpan and we're going to pour it on Reggie, right in his face. And every one of those kids who he had called names and called their parents' names, all of them was in on it. They were like, yeah, let's do it. So a couple of nights later, while Reggie was sleeping on his back, he was sleeping on his back with his mouth wide open. We had peed in the bedpan. We were the Bedpan Mafia. I mean, I'm talking about like 5 or 6 of us, we loaded that little bedpan up. And we walked over there to Reggie's bed. Everybody wanted to have part of the dumping it on him. But I told him, I got it. Let me do it. And while Reggie was lying on his back, I dumped that entire bedpan right in his face. He jumped up screaming. We all ran back to our beds. Nurses ran in there. What's going on? Pee everywhere. Piss all over the bed, all over the wall. Reggie coughing up piss still. And we were laying there like we were asleep. And she was like, who in the hell did this? One of these kids, they poured pee on me. They poured pee on me. I could see her, but I couldn't see him because I was pretending like I was asleep. But I can imagine the nurses probably was fighting back a smile because he finally got his just desserts. So one of the nurses, they kind of knew me a little bit because she spent a lot of time around me, helped me walk around the room. She walked up to my bed and she got her head real close to mine. She said, I know you behind this. You did this. And I kept on faking like I was asleep. So the next morning, Reggie was still moody, but I noticed something. Old Reggie wasn't calling people names. He wasn't calling the janitor names. But then the nurse that told me, I know you did this, decided to calm me down because, like she said, that was way too much. This is later, after they found out I was behind it. So they moved me out of the room, and all my buddies like, why he got to move? He's our friend. And they moved me out of the room, and he said, we're going to take you to another room because you won't calm down. Because I was doing other crazies. I was running out. Once I got my legs together, I was running down the halls, jumping everywhere because I wanted to get up and run again. And Reggie, he looked at us, but he didn't say much. But to calm me down, they put me in a girls' room, an all-girls room. And man, I freaked. I was like, I don't want to be in there with them girls. And they were like, you got to stay in here. I'm crying. I'm trying to get back to my buddies at the other room. And they were like, this is your new room because you don't know how to be good. I'm sitting up in the bed, pissed as hell. Like, oh, I got to get back to my buddies. And they wouldn't let me go back there. Finally, sitting there, a huge giant crayon, popped me in the side of the head. I'm like, what? And then another one hit the wall next to me. And then another one. All these girls are throwing crayons at me. And I grabbed a bunch of crayons, started throwing it at them. And they threw back, and I threw them at them. And then finally, I had all the crayons. I stopped throwing my crayons, and they had all their crayons on my bed. And then I said, Why y'all stupid girls throwing crayons at me? Why you in our room? I said, this is not your room. This is everybody's room. Get out of our room. I'm like, damn, they sound like my sisters. But anyway, so we sat there. I sat there, brother, stewing a bit. I wanted to go back to the room. I hate these stupid girls. Finally, one of the girls came up to me and she said, what are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be here. This is a girl's room. And I'm like, they put me in here. I don't want to be here. She said, well, you can get out now. I said, I ain't getting out. She said, yo, I'm going to tell my mama you in our room. I'm like, what? So finally, she came back over there. She walked back to her bed and she came back a few minutes later. And she said, my name is Katie. I'm like, I don't give a damn. I didn't say that. I said, oh, okay. I said, my name is Joe, but they call me Pelly, 4 years old. And then we walked around, me and Katie became friends. We started running around the hospital. We started talking to each other every day. Honestly, at 4 years old, like the sign above me, I was falling in love with Katie. And after a couple of weeks, Katie had to go home. And I cried like a baby. I cried as a baby because she didn't want to leave me in the hospital. And I didn't want her to leave either. And she cried and cried because my new partner in crime was going home and I had to stay. And I mean, we hugged each other so hard. Man, I still almost feel that love, that unadulterated love that two kids can have for each other. And that's what I want to say. The moral of this story is love. You got somebody that love you. They love you and you really love them. As I said in another video, you need to be doing everything you can to show that love. You should never let them feel taken for granted. And you should never take them for granted. Because that wife, that friend, that sibling, that parent that's in your life that's been there forever, why in the world are you risking losing that? Be good to them. I mean, be real good to them. Because love like that don't come easy. Y'all know that. We all know that. But sometimes we need reminders. So you think about that. The next time you think you don't need somebody in life, you can always do without them. You can't. Not if they really love you and you really love them. So I guess the moral of the story is, as I said, love. Cherish it. Because you don't know how long it's going to last or the person lasts. And while you got it, hold on to it for dear life. I'm going to let y'all get on out of here. Next time you're in this neck of the woods, stop on by. Sure, I got another story for you by then. Like my dad used to say, y'all take it easy.